Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all of the praises and the glory to the Most High and the Son, Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi Towards, and double honors to the apostles of the Greatmillstone, as well as giving the salutations thereof to the Akim, and shalom to the brothers and a few of the sisters that support us on the side. And once again, I want to do another video, and I hope through the Spirit of the Lord, this is going to be an interesting lesson, and as usual, as it's supposed to be edifying. And the title of the video is going to be centered around, us as a people being under our last captivity in the last empire of a mall of the nations. And in this time that we're living in the last kingdom, and us experiencing our last captivity, it's just going to be dramatic. And in the beginning of our downfall, which took place, a lot of people would say, especially our people, they'll reference the main transatlantic slave trade, but there was also a slave trade that happened prior, before the 1600s. But we'll just deal with the main transatlantic slave trade that happened in the 17th century. That in itself was very dramatic, man. The way that we were tossed into them ships, and they didn't politely send us to those ships. They tossed us into them ships, and they had an area in those ships, the underground of those ships, and we were just pretty much on top of each other like a bunch of sardines. You had pregnant women giving birth to children while on top of the rest of the slaves, and you can only but imagine overall what it must have been like being in that kind of environment, man, where you just had these people, our ancestors, being tossed into them ships the way that they were, and how they were centered under those ships. You see, so even from the beginning of us being led into captivity, serving the Edomites in the New World, it was dramatic, man. So eventually, when the end comes of this place, our salvation alone is going to be dramatic. Alright, being that this is our last captivity, and this is the last empire of a more of the nations. It's kind of like when you're playing a video game or even watching a film. The beginning part of the film is less interesting because the good guy, he's always winning, so there's not much more drama there. But it becomes more dramatizing when you're watching the last part of the film, because the good guy gets his ass whooped, and the storyline overall gets interesting. So it's like how it is today. You have the star of this film, which is what the Lord has been setting up throughout the ages, and to us it's just life. We've been getting our ass whooped. Now, during the time of King David and King Solomon, all was well. We was pretty much kicking butt. We was kicking butt economically and literally kicking butt. But as you fast forward to now, we're in the worst situation that we've ever could have been in. After enduring hardcore slavery and being tossed into them slave ships the way that we were tossed into them slave ships. You see, so it's dramatizing. Even through going through this captivity, suffering under this man. Alright? But as I've said, it's going to end dramatically well. Just as usual, when you watch a film, the good guy always wins at the end. And we're going to win. So now let's begin by reading Daniel 7 and verse 7. And this I saw in a night vision, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue of the feet of it, and it was diverse from all of the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns, which the 10 horns represents, as well as in the book of Daniel, the 2nd chapter, I believe, as the 10 toes. And the toes are the last part of the human body, right? And the 10 horns, which are indeed the 10 toes, are referencing the 10 common states which have came together and formulated the European Union and tag team with the Americans, altogether known as NATO. Alright, so this is who we're under. We're under the governance of the revival version of Rome as a whole, serving our enemies with greater oppression and overall suffering. So verse 8, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the root, which the 3 horns represent the French, the Spanish, and the British. And you can get into the history on that just by going into the Revolutionary Wars in the 1700s. So it goes far as to read, which that's another video for another time. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and the mouth speaking great things. And this horn represents the 8th horn that Revelation says, which came out of the 7th horn, which is Great Britain. So this would be the superior horn. And again, if you really check it out, when we were taken as slaves, we were taken to the mainland, which was also known as the New World, and the bulk of us went to America. Now, some of us went to South America, especially Brazil. You had certain slaves that went to Brazil and all of that stuff, right? And you know, we can't remember that. Yeah, we were taking as slaves from West Africa, but we were also taking as slaves from Europe too. And you know, Esau makes it seem like that we were just destitute before they took us as slaves. No, we was doing too good. We was gravy. All right, when you check out the history of how we were living prior before slavery, we was doing good. Okay, like during the time, I believe it was maybe, I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to guess it, because I know I'm gonna be wrong if I guess it anyway. Most of the times when you guess stuff, you're wrong. But you know, way prior before the 1600s, man, there you had a man by the name of Mansa Musa. He was the king of the Mali Empire, which was based in Ghana. And it was estimated that Mansa Musa was worth hundreds of billions. Like, they found out how much money he had, how much gold he had, and it came to in the billions, the hundreds of billions of dollars or pounds of the currency that we use today. So he was rich, and he wasn't the only one. There was other Jakes that was just as rich as he was. So Jake was doing good. And then also when you check out even the Mexicans, the so-called Mexicans, which are nothing more than the people of Israel, of the tribe of Issachar, as the Aztecas, they had buildings that were made out of gold themselves. You see, so you know, when they go into the history, man, the basic main history that Esau will show you, they'll make it look like that we were nobodies, and we were made somebodies because Esau got us and colonized us. Nah, we were already somebodies before Esau became a somebody. Alright, so in this captivity that we're serving, being that this is the last one, we've become much more destroyed, because we were already, I mean, when a nation takes over another nation, that nation is destroyed by that nation. And what makes this captivity also worse than the previous ones, because in this one we didn't even know that we were Israelites. A lot of us cannot say that they were born knowing that they were Israelites. Only a very few of us can. But most of us didn't grow up knowing that we were Israelites. You know, some of us may have probably had a clue there and there, but we didn't totally know that we were Israelites. So the Lord stripped us naked from everything that we once had, and we're a lot more worse now. So it's getting interesting, man, from the angel standpoint and from the eyes of the Lord, to be exact, is interesting as hell. And it's going to get more interesting to the optimum when Yahawashi makes a second return by saving us. So anyway, now let's go back and read Daniel's the 7th chapter, and we're going to read verse 9. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool, and his throne was like the fiery flames, and his will is the burning fire. So why is the Ancient of Days now being spoken of in Daniel 7 and 9 after the last horn? Because after this empire is destroyed, which is being governed by America to be exact, and America is not the most powerful nation but the most influential at this point. Great Britain is the power behind this empire. But again, like I said, why does it mention the Ancient of Days? Because the Lord is going to come and he's going to be the one to bring an end to this civilization, and as well as delivering his people. Revelation 17, which connects with what I just read, verse 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are the 10 kings, which is the 10 states, the 10 countries of Europe, formulating the European Union, which have received no kingdom as yet, but received power as king 1 hour with the beast. And these have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast, as they've done. They've came together and they formulated the European Union. And when they got together and tag team with America, they formed an alliance and they declared that it was the Club of Rome. Just to add, so it says, these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is the Lord of lords and the King of kings, and they that are with him are called and are chosen, are faithful. And that's why in Daniel 7 and 9, Daniel speaks on the Ancient of Days, which represents ultimately Yahawashi, because he's going to be the next one to come after this empire reaches its apex, when Esau has fulfilled their wickedness, so to speak. And then verse 10 reads, a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. That's the lasers. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him, and the judgment was set and the books were opened. And that's the angels, because remember, as it reads in the book of Revelations 1, that every eye shall see him, and also the Lord will come with clouds. So again, as I say, in the last empire that we're in, brothers, and as well as our last captivity, man, this is going to be so interesting. It's going to be unbelievable. Like the song, Unbelievable. Right? Inside joke. So yeah, it was interesting from the beginning when we were enslaved, and it's going to be interesting up to the very end of the civilization, man. And I mean, it's going to be very interesting because also we're going to be having to get the upper hand against our enemies. Finally, we're going to be executing judgment for the wrongs that they've done unto us. All right, and we're all leading up to that time. We're all being led towards that time, brothers. So now let's go and read the book of Nahum 1. Verse 6. Who can stand before his indignation, and who can abide in the fierceness of his anger? And his fury is poured out like fire, and the rocks are thrown down by him. And the Lord is good in the stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knoweth them that trust in him. But with an overrunning flood he will make an utter end of the place thereof, and darkness shall pursue his enemies. And what is the overrunning flood going to be? The pouring down of his anger. That's what the Heavenly Father is going to flood this place with. His indignation, which the term indignation means God's righteous anger. Like it reads in the book of Psalms 69, verse 24. I believe this was written by David, right? Yes. So when we read verse 24, It says, pour out thine indignation upon them, and let thy wrathful anger take hold of them, and let their habitation be desolate, and let none dwell in their tents. And that reminds me of Isaiah 13, where Babylon, which is America, will be a no man's land. So much so that even an Arabian will not pinch a tent there, and that doleful creatures of the desert will lie there instead, because it's going to be a desert. So this is what we're being led to. Alright? And as we keep watching the news, eventually this whole entire system is going to find itself in a state of a world war. And through that world war, or should I say the third woe, that's how this place is going to be wiped out clean. So even that's going to be hella interesting, severely dramatizing. Alright? And at the end thereof, there will be no more captivity for the nation of Israel, man. Now I just want to read Job 16 real quick, verse 11 to verse maybe 14. For the most I have delivered me to the ungodly, and turned me over to the hands of the wicked. I was at ease, but he hath broken me asunder, and he hath also taken me by my neck, and shaken me to pieces, and set me up for his mark. His archers compass me round about, and he cleaveth my reins asunder, and doeth not spare, and he poureth out my galls upon the ground, and he breaketh me with breach upon breach, and he runneth upon me like a giant. Going back to another point that I was making, which is a part of the lesson, of course, that the Lord has destroyed our people, allowing these nations to get the upper hand against us and to destroy us, as I'm going to use the term once again, severely. And I mean, we've been the worst at these times, man, because in the previous captivities, as well as they weren't so wicked, they were all wicked, but they weren't as wicked as this captivity that we're under as well. And we haven't been so oppressed as we are yet this day. You know, in this captivity, under this empire, under the guise of Edom, or should I say under the rulership. So it goes far as to read, he breaketh me, once again, he breaketh me with the breach upon breach, he runneth upon me like a giant. And also, like it reads in the book of Isaiah once again, that the Lord hath wounded us with a wound of an enemy. I believe it's in Jeremiah. And as it is written also in the book of Deuteronomy, I believe it's 32, where the Lord said by Moses that I'm the one that wound and I'm the one that heals. And in this captivity, we're in the process of healing through the word, and by the word we've found our senses. We're now alive, we're quickened, we're well awake. We now serve a purpose. We know our self-value. But prior before then, we were destroyed. We were turned over. We were nobodies. We were lost. Alright? Because we're being led to another world, and as well as things are changing. And the world that we're experiencing will be no more. We're transitioning to the kingdom of heaven now, and this is why the Lord is bringing us back to what we was before. As it is written, the Lord will bring back the house of David as in the days of old, and that's what's happening. So I just want to also read, going back to Nahum 1 verse 9. It says, what do you imagine against the Lord? He will make an utter end. Affliction shall not rise up the second time. Exactly, because when we're in the kingdom, another nation is not going to take the position of power no more and rule over us again. That's never going to happen. Alright? What's going to happen is we're going to rule for eternity, and we're going to be kicking ass for eternity, economically and as well as these nations as well. Literally, we're going to get them in order, and they're going to have to get used to us being over them. So let's read this again. What do you imagine against Yahawah? He will make an utter end of America, to be exact. Affliction shall not rise up the second time. Now let's also read Lamentations 4 verse 12. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished. O daughter of Zion, he will no more carry thee away into captivity, and he will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom, and he will discover thy sin. So simultaneously, when we're delivered, that's going to be the beginning of Esau drinking that cup. And what is that cup filled with? The cursings. That's the cup we had to drink, which is in verse 21. I actually wasn't even looking at that scripture. Let me read this since I'm speaking about the cup. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellers in the lands of Uz, and the cup also shall pass through unto thee, and thou shalt be drunken, and shalt make thyself naked. You see? So now what I want to do is I want to go back by reading Nahum 1, verse 8. And I want to look up that word overrunning and flood. But with an overrunning flood he will make an utter end of the place thereof, and darkness shall pursue his enemies. And the word darkness also is synonymous with destruction or despair. Now let's look up this word overrunning and flood in the Hebrew. So the word is abar, which means to pass over, or by, or through, alienate, bring, carry, to away, take away, transgress, to pass over, cross over, pass over, march over, overflow, go over, to pass beyond. So we get the gist of all of this right here, right? So what's going to pass over as a flood does? The Lord's indignation. Once again, so that's how the Lord is going to discover the sins of the nation of Edom. All right, by judging them, because the Lord has already discovered their sins already. All of the wickedness that they've done as a people has already been taken into account. So now the Lord is going to visit them by judging them. Okay, so there you go. That's all I have to read on that regard. So now let's read some more in the book of Psalm 69. So in verse 25 it reads, let their habitation be desolate, and let none dwell in their tents. For they persecute him whom thou hast smitten, and they talk to the grief of those whom thou hast wounded, and they have wounded us. So because they've touched the apple of the Lord's eye, now the Lord is going to wound them. Okay? And this also reminds me of the book of 2 Peter 3. In verse 10, to be exact. So it reads, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, and in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat, and the earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. And seeing then that all of these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversations and godliness? Here we have it, looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of the Lord, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Nevertheless, we according to his promise look for new heavens and the new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness. Exactly. So before that happens, we're going to see this place being wiped out by way of nuclear destruction, and as well as the flooding of the Lord's indignation. And I just want to go back once again, reading Nahum 1 verse 6. Actually, no, verse 5. The mountains quake at him, which is a precept to what I was reading in Peter's. The mountains quake at him, and the hills melt, and the earth is burned at his presence, yea, the world, and all that dwell therein. So it's going to seem like the Lord is going to kill and burn a lot of people, man. And as it is written in 1 Peter 4, all of these scriptures is coming in my mind. Verse 7, it says that if the righteous scarcely be saved, where shall the sinner repair? Right? They're going to appear in those flames. So now let me read this again. Looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of the Lord, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. So the Lord is going to cleanse this earth from the evil and the wickedness that has been done, and as well as judging the people and literally cleansing the earth, because there's a whole lot of garbage that's got to go out of here as well. That's in the waters, and as well as there's garbage in the air, and there's all manner of metals that we don't see that we're inhaling and exhaling. So Yahawah is going to come and send fire, like it is written in the book of Luke 12. What would I do if the fire already be kindled already to send the fire? So just bringing that out just to make the point and saying that Yahawah is going to be bringing fire on the earth, right along with the nuclear fire. And all of this fire combined together is going to clean the earth. As it reads in 13, nevertheless, we according to his promise look for new heavens and a new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness. So the earth is going to be refreshed, renewed. Yahawah said it himself, that I will make all things new. So in the process of that, it's going to be dramatizing like no one's business. Like I said, it was dramatizing when we came off them ships. When we was in them ships, coming off them ships, serving hardcore slavery, and serving slavery now to the very end of the last empire and our last captivity. And hopefully you saw where I was coming from with this lesson that I did, and it was edifying. And eventually what I can't forget is that the Lord is going to re-magnify his name once again. Because what did we do? We defiled his name by wandering about from nation to nation, serving their gods instead of him, while the Lord placed his name upon us. So in the Lord bringing the drama that he's going to bring alone is going to refresh even his name and magnify his name as well. So with that, hopefully, like I said, you saw where I was coming from in this lesson, and this lesson was edifying overall, which is most importantly to you, and it exhorted you. And with that, I'm closing and not saying Shalom.